the math.
Whether you want them or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner May, Madam Mayor, it is now 12 o'clock.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the joint ACHD City of Boise meeting for October 29th. I will go ahead and call the ACHD portion to order and note for the record that we have Commissioners May, Goldthorpe, Arnold, and Hanson present, so we do have a quorum. Mayor McLean, if you could do the same, please.
Great, thank you. Typically, I can't see everybody that's on, but typically we do a roll call. I can just call people off. Council President Clegg?
Here.
Council President Pro Tem Woodings?
Here.
Council Member, let's see, Bajent? Halliburton?
Here.
Sanchez? Thompson?
I'm here.
Great, okay. So the record will reflect that we are missing council members Bajent and Sanchez right now.
All right. Welcome, everyone. You should all have a copy of the agenda. If not, I'm sure we can get one put up on the screen. So since we do have several items on there, as we go through this first portion and work through these items, if you could direct your questions and comments through the chair. And then afterwards, I'm hoping we can have just a more free-flowing, organic type of discussion at the end. So with that, we will start. We're going to have an update on the Harrison Boulevard project and presentation by Director Wong.
Thank you, Commissioner May. Stacy, if you bring up the presentation, please. Okay, well, again, welcome to the Ada County Highway District. It's great to have you all here. I was asked to present just an update to all of you on the collaborative process we're going through regarding traffic calming on Harrison Boulevard. We have been in close contact with multiple sessions with the neighborhoods to ensure that we have all of the specific goals and criteria out that the neighborhood is comfortable with going forward. So I wanted to list just a couple of them for you. These were the key goals that we continue to focus on Harrison. One is to reduce speeds. Now, as you all know, we've already taken the first step to standardize the speed limit on Harrison Boulevard between all vehicles. The second one, take approach for all users. What is safe? What type of different things might we do or might we not do on Harrison Boulevard? The key concern for the neighborhood was safety for pedestrians, of course, and the other key things is to preserve the historic nature of Harrison and, of course, the character of Harrison Boulevard. The neighborhood wanted to ensure that it was least impactful and that if, for some reason, that other decisions were made downstream, those changes that we would all agree to could be replaced and re-engineered going back. One of the key aspects that we have been working with, of course, is with the emergency responders. We've been working, Madam Mayor, with your fire department and such to ensure that any plans we have meets their criteria and doesn't impact their ability to respond. From our perspective and the neighborhood's perspective, what we do next has got to be cost effective. It's got to be efficient, and it again has to preserve the character and significance, historic significance of Harrison across the board. The neighborhood is very adamant, and justifiably so, about whatever we do. We should be very cautious in any type of excess lighting and multiple signs going up and down the boulevard. Going back to that first one of those key bullets of keep the Harrison's character the way it needs to be. And the pilot project that we will eventually come to has to be easily installed and easily removed. So current status, we have actually had 5 meetings with the neighbors, the neighborhood representatives of the neighborhood association, and we have already discussed 3, if not 4, variants of pilot projects for this. And currently, we had a meeting just earlier this week on Monday, and we have presented, which I'll show you here in a second, the next iteration of what we think is possible. So next slide, Stacy, please. What this is, again, this is an engineering perspective on how do we we gain drivers' attention, and how do we slow the traffic? Well, we're using a hybrid model of planting systems and placing certain barriers in certain areas that will do exactly that. The pictorial on the right there is the red dots, what candles would look like as a pilot project to see if this worked. The neighborhood association, or excuse me, the representatives of the neighborhood association has this. It has been shared and such, and we will be meeting again on Monday at 3:30 to discuss this, to ascertain whether or not this is a step that the neighborhood is comfortable with moving forward. Again, our intention is to have a pilot project in place before Thanksgiving so that we can gain the initial gauge of how things work, and then do a long-term on the operation, and come back to the neighborhood association and say, here's what we've learned, here's what we'd like to do, and get their either thumbs up or thumbs down on this. But at the end of the day, this maximizes stormwater operations. It maximizes the opportunity to actually slow traffic and such. And at the end of it, it does not impact the character of the boulevard. So with that, that's my quick update. And as I said earlier, we'll be meeting with the neighborhood representatives again Monday at 3:30. And I can stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Director Wong. Any questions or comments?
Oh, and I do want to say that
About the
Commissioner May, myself, my head of Development Technical Services, and have been involved with every one of these meetings so far. So we are, as we like to say, we are listening, and we are providing options back and forth so that the people that live on Harrison are comfortable with what we are going to do, or may do.
Madam
And
Chair,
I would just like to add that they have been an active voice in this whole project. Our staff put together an initial concept that was presented to them, and then they took it back to their different groups, and then it provided input. So what you're looking at today is a result of all the input that we've gotten, and so it's more of a hybrid. And so that's where we are today. But
Madam Chair,
yes, Councilwoman Hollings.
um,
Wooding.
thank you.
Hollings Wooding.
If you can just mash my first and last name together and I'll answer, it's totally fine. I'm just curious about this temporary kind of trial basis. Is this kind of a trial for the bulb-out design that was part of the Transportation Action Plan for streets like Harrison, or what would that kind of be proving out? And if it did prove to be successful, what would the permanent infrastructure look like?
Director Wong.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman, this is, again, a hybrid. It is an opportunity to, again, take a first step to see if something works going forward. We're excited about learning. We know what the traffic counts are now. We've been doing that for some time. We know what the speed issues are. We've well documented that across the board. So this was something where, again, we were able to take an issue where we don't have to rip up the road completely, re-engineer the entire road, but provide a somewhat of a hybrid to, again, I'm going to say, change driver attitude, while at the same time not having bicycles being dumped out into the middle of the intersections of the road, which is dangerous, providing a shorter path for pedestrians to walk back and forth. We talked about the pilot project. Again, this will be something that we'll use if the neighborhood is agreeable, and I think that's very important on this entire process that we're going through, that we are able to very quickly put those candles in place with minimum additional signage, which would take away from the character of Harrison Boulevard, again, to see if this works. If it doesn't, or if there's improvements, and we'll be meeting with the neighborhood representatives and continue to mold that process to where They're comfortable. We're comfortable regarding meeting all safety standards and requirements of our engineering operations, and then again managing the stormwater challenge that we all have, especially in the north end and that sort of area. But that's where we are right now.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. So I had a question about what does it look like now? I know we've had the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit decrease. How long have we had that in place, and can we tell what the benefit of that has been so far?
Madam President, Councilwoman, it's been in place for approximately 2 months, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. We have noticed a decrease in what they call our engineers will call the 85 percentile. 85% of the folks drive in this area. We have noticed that there are some instances where the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is exceeded. We've also noticed that there have been multiple concerns from folks that may not live on Harrison about why the heck did we just lower the speed limits on Harrison and such, with potentially impacting those commuters that are going further up the foothills or trying to get into downtown Boise. So we're managing all of that. But again, I think that if the neighborhood is in agreement, the true solution to this is not just putting up a speed sign. It's also encouraging maybe different visual cues, different operations for drivers to take a look and slow down a little bit more. Will we get to, and I'm just being candid, will we get to 25 miles an hour across the board? No. It's just not going to happen from reality. Are we able to impact the driving consciousness, I'll call it? Yes, we already have, and I think we're going to be able to do a much better job as we get on this path. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Director Wong. If I may ask a follow-up question, Madam President?
Oh, please.
Thank you. So it's been 2 months. It looks like there is some improvement. Realistically, how long would we stick with what we've got right now in terms of making a change to Harrison before we recognize that we may need some additional amendments and changes to the way we do things on Harrison?
Madam President, Councilwoman, again, I'm going to again be candid and say, I think we're going to find out when it's all said and done. I think that our goal, which has been collaboratively devised between the district and the residents who actually live on Harrison and use Harrison, those goals and comments I shared earlier, those are our key metrics. Those are the key, I'll call it, boundaries that we're working through. It's very important to the neighborhood to ensure that the character and the historic significance of Harrison is not changed. And so as we work through this, we're going to see what happens. My thought is, if we're able to start a pilot project with candles in the next couple weeks, if we're not, we'll continue to work through this, then that will give us an initial idea, both good and bad, because trust me, we'll get all the phone calls, good and bad, on what we're doing, especially if people are not happy with it who don't live on the Boulevard, and we'll adjust. But we're going to need a couple months just to ensure that all the options are where they need to be. Now, the other challenge will be winter, and we've been very candid and clear with the residents that safety is paramount, and if there's an issue where we have lots of snow, our plows are coming through there, and we may have to take the candles out, we may have to put them back in. We don't know yet, and such, but we have had discussions with the neighborhood representatives that said that this will probably continue as we adjust and we learn into spring to ensure we have good information for all conditions on Harrison. I hope that's answered your question.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam.
Okay.
Madam President.
You're very welcome. Council President Clegg,
Thank you.
I believe you had a question or comment?
Yes, I did have a couple of questions. How do I unmute myself?
You're unmuted. No.
Oh, okay.
It's
You're unmuted.
That mic.
Oh,
You're good to
okay.
go. Coming in loud and clear.
Thank you. Excuse me. So, Director Wong and staff, I have a couple of questions if I could. Was my understanding at our initial meeting that you're going to try this at 4 intersections? Is that still
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
And so you're showing one as
Just one.
typical? Okay. I also understood from our initial conversation that you might be willing to try 2 different designs, 2 at 2 of the intersections and 2 at others. If the neighborhood comes back with some suggestions, would you try to do a typical, or might you look at 2 different?
The aperture is wide open.
Okay. So then a couple of specifics about this particular design. You say the 16 feet is for emergency vehicles, but my understanding is that for a short distance like this, they wouldn't need that much. But then you talked about bikes and making sure there was enough room for them. So is this sort of a compromise between emergency vehicles and bikes and making sure that they can
Absolutely. As
both
a matter
get
of fact,
through?
we just got the letter from the fire department, I want to say last Friday, specifically saying this is what we need throughout Harrison. That being said, we continue to take all the different pieces and parts to make sure that when we're done, we haven't unintentionally put anybody in harm's way.
Okay.
But again, flexibility is key to this as we go back and forth. I will assume that on Monday, the neighborhood association will have either more questions or more recommendations or more ideas.
Okay, and then last question. These all have bulb outs or curb extensions on the outside of the inside of the pedestrian crossings, but not on the intersection side. And I guess I'm a little worried about that design from what I know of intersection design, particularly for the 2 sides of the intersection where there are right turners. But even for the left turners, I wonder if the pedestrian wouldn't feel some sense of safety because of that curb extension and have a right turn, do a right hook into where they're standing because of that safety. And I just bring that up because I've seen too many right hooks, and certainly we think about them with bikes, but it worries me that this might create a possibility of that happening. So I will leave it to the engineers, but wanted to bring that up.
I would say we'll leave it to engineers, but we'll put good judgment on it when it's all said and done. I know my engineers will kill me for saying this right now, but it's amazing. That conversation, we actually had that conversation on Monday. One of the concerns that we've raised that we're working through is, of course, larger turning vehicle radius. There may be a little bit more danger to pedestrians if bigger vehicles, buses, trucks, or whatever, are turning. They go over that curb, which causes some other issues. But no, that was brought up, and we are working through that. And I'm positive we'll hear about that on Monday again.
Okay, great, thank you.
You bet.
All right, thank you. Additional comments or questions?
Madam President, this is Councilmember Halliburton.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. A couple things. One, it's great to see everybody, and I like the custom branded ACHD mask that Director Wong has on, so that's wonderful.
I can get you
and
one.
I need some of my own. And I also appreciate all the work with the neighborhood associations. I know how much they are involved in the process, and I really appreciate everybody diving in and working with them. I apologize if you've answered this just a little bit already. So my kind of understanding is that with the pilot project, it's a little bit of a different design than you would typically see with a bulb out, kind of like Councilmember Clegg was saying, where the sidewalk is extended a little bit out into the street, but it still kind of does some of those things anyway by narrowing the lane. I know there's some of the objectives with the pilot project to make sure that it works with the feel of the neighborhood and the historic character of that. But also, of course, slowing down vehicles, is the other major goal. And I guess I'm just a little curious if this doesn't appear to slow down the vehicles, narrowing the lanes, which typically, that would be something that we would assume to be true. are there other things that you all are looking at to decrease the speed, or do we think that this is going to address the speed and the other pilot aspects of it are really just addressing the needs of the neighborhood and kind of that historic character? Does that make sense?
It does, Madam President, Council Member. Again, this is new grounds across the board. And we are, our engineers in collaboration with the neighborhood are attempting to build something that has not been built before. If it works, and we have confidence that it will, then this may become the model, and I want to underline the word may become the model for other streets that are similar to Harrison, with the same characteristics that the district, in concert with the neighborhood association, can put in at a reasonable cost while managing stormwater operations, and at the same time provide a little bit of flexibility, again, specifically directed at that specific street, to accomplish what I think the commission and of course the council and all council members are looking at is a safer operation for all users, all multimodal users. We will find out.
Perfect. And Madam President, maybe just one quick follow-up there.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Director Wong. And just since you brought up other neighborhoods and the potential of looking at these in some other areas, I know all of our wonderful folks on Harrison Boulevard have been very outspoken about wanting to slow some traffic there. And so as we kind of examine maybe some other areas, if this does prove to be successful, I'd love to find some areas of town where neighborhood associations, maybe not so large or not so active, or some areas where people who are maybe less wealthy or are renters may not necessarily have the same strength as the petition. So hopefully this goes really well and we can kind of explore some of those other areas that have a little less input. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Madam President?
Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
Madam President, I appreciate the comments from the city. And I would add also we've discussed it in the past, but take a look at the plan for Kootenai, because that will be starting this year, and that went through a very comprehensive process with a lot of city input. The citizens in that street took a petition out and started that. So there'll be quite a number of features, and they're going to be permanent features to do that. And I really appreciate the city's input, and I think we should take to heart Councilmember Halliburton's comments that let's look at those areas where really this petition process we have doesn't really help us identify perhaps some of the serious speeding. The city's done some superb work, I think, training and being more sensitive, diversity training, more sensitive to the wide diversity of citizens in our community, and especially renters, and the good work that Councilmember Sanchez is doing on behalf of renters. And I think maybe we can dovetail that into saying another way of making this neighborhood safe and livable would be to address speeding. So let's work in partnership to help find those. I have some ideas on my side of town, but I'm sure there's others. And I really appreciate the reference that Councilmember Woodings had, because a lot of the work that you've done in identifying context-sensitive design in the TAP, the Traffic Action Plan, Transportation Action Plan for the city, is a really good guiding document for us. So I just want to champion the city's partnership, and there's some almost daily opportunities for us to collaborate, take the ideas that we're learning from Kootenai and from Harrison Boulevard and from 13th. Actually, there's going to be traffic calming on 13th, and then applying them appropriately throughout the state, throughout the city. Excuse me.
Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions for Director Wong? All right, hearing none. Director Wong, thank you very much. Good discussion. All right, our next item is an update on our integrated 5-year work plan prioritization, and Ms. Christy Inselman, Senior Transportation Planner, will be presenting to us.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're very welcome. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you. It'll take me just a minute to get my presentation up.
There.
Okay. You guys all see that? Oops.
Yep.
Hold on, I gotta switch. It always does this to me, and it drives me nuts. I have to do it like twice every single time.
Always a test. Looks good.
Mary, I'm beginning. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, there we go. So good afternoon, Madam President, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, and Council members. I'm Christy Inselman, and I'm with the Planning and Projects Department. I'm here to talk to you about the 5-year work plan and how projects are prioritized. So first is the planning framework. This is a graphic representation of how the integrated 5-year work plan works in conjunction with our partner agencies and their visions for the county. It begins with the cities and counties establishing their land use vision, then the regional transportation plan, ACHG's strategic plan that all flow into the 5-year work plan. And then ACHG's foundational documents also play an important role. So the integrated 5-year work plan sets forth the strategies, projects, and priorities which Ada County Highway District will pursue over the next 5 years. The first 2 years of the integrated 5-year work plan are tied directly to ACHG's budget. The plan integrates the building, maintenance, and operation of our roadway system, implements ACHG's long-range plans, as well as creating transparency of planned activities. So annually, ACHG requests a list of project priorities for inclusion in the integrated 5-year work plan from our partner agencies. These include all 6 cities, the county, 3 school districts, and we recently added BSU. So the lists assist ACHG in understanding the importance of an improvement at a higher level. This year, the prioritization requests will go out starting Monday, November 2nd. The earlier start will provide more time for our partner agencies to submit their requests. This time, it'll be about 4 months that the agencies will be provided, as well as providing staff additional time to evaluate and prioritize those requests. Some other highlighted dates would be the first public open house on February 18th and targeted budget adoption on August 25th, and the adoption of the 22-26 5-year work plan in September of 2021. So yes, it seems early, but it's an ongoing process. So the prioritization criteria was identified by the ACHG Commission. These include our partner agency, with our partner agency support. Was the proposed project requested by one or more of our partner agencies, and how did they rank it? The higher a project is ranked by a partner agency, the higher marks it will receive. Other items that are considered are proximity of the proposed project to existing attractors, such as schools, civic facilities, transit, commercial destinations. And is a project identified in a neighborhood plan? Will it create connectors to pedestrian facilities? Does it include Americans with Disabilities Act facilities that need to be added or replaced, as well as other items such as crossing distance, low-stress bikeways? And then once projects are ranked, we utilize the information to inform our decision-making process to decide which projects are scoped and programmed each year. Prioritization is just a part of the discussion for determining which projects make it into the plan. Ranked projects are evaluated based on the overall points they receive, the type of facility that it is, the agency ranking, available funding, and project cost. Projects can't be added to the 5-year work plan until they've been scoped for cost estimate and project viability. Each year, we scope approximately 40 to 50 projects. This includes capital and community programs. And then once projects are scoped and determined as viable projects, they await inclusion in the 5-year work plan, always pending funding. This year, we implemented a new format for the integrated 5-year work plan. Shout out to Ryan. In addition to the full list of all programs projects, we broke those down into each neighborhood planning area so the public can see what will be completed in their particular area rather than scanning through page after page of project lists. This was also mirrored on the interactive integrated 5-year work plan map, which shows the neighborhood planning area. This change is an important step in providing the most user-friendly document. And then over the next few slides, I just wanted to go into more detail on projects programmed in the integrated 5-year work plan for the city of Boise. Currently, there's 42 pedestrian improvement projects. These include the construction of enhanced pedestrian crossings, sidewalks, ADA ramps, etc., gap filling projects. And then of note, there are 14 projects currently programmed for construction in fiscal year 2021, which started this month. The 5-year work plan included the addition of the new Bikeway signage program, the purpose of which is to accelerate the completion of the low-stress bikeway network. There are 27 low-stress bikeways in Boise programmed in the integrated 5-year work plan. 7 are programmed to be completed in 21, and 8 of them in 2022. And I love this stat that currently 9% of the population is within a quarter mile of a completed low-stress bikeway when we started the program. With the completion of the bikeways currently programmed in the integrated 5-year work plan, 40% of the population will be within a quarter mile of a low-stress bikeway. And then through the annual report, it was evident that Boise Southwest area was a hotspot of need. So several roadway and intersection projects in that area were accelerated and new projects were added. The corridors include the Orchard Street realignment, Maple Grove, Lake Hazel, Cloverdale, Victory, and 5 Mile. There are some also major projects planned for 2021, including Maple Grove, Victory to Overland, the Gowan Road Bridge west of I-84, and the Cole and Victory intersection, which is under construction and will be completed this year. And there are a total of 53 major capital projects programmed in the integrated 5-year work plan for Boise. And then finally, a review of our next steps in this year's integrated 5-year work plan process. So Monday, we'll be sending out our kickoff letters, as well as the updated ACHD prioritization tool that we created last year for all of our partner agencies. And then on February 18th, we'll hold our first public open house. The 24th of February is the due date for our partner agency prioritization request list. And then on April 7th, we'll hold the first work session with the commission on the prioritization review. And even though I'm sitting in my at home, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Christy. Good update. Any questions or comments, please, for Christy? No? Okay.
Madam President, I just want to do
Commissioner Hanson?
quick shout out to Christy and also the staff. The part of the integrated 5-year work plan that's kind of boring is the capital maintenance, but they are doing something cool this coming year, and that's integrating an evaluation and scoping, not just of the pavement condition that needs to be potentially replaced, but also whether on those segments there might need to be sidewalk gaps filled, ADA ramps put in, traffic calming, bikeways. So there's a much more holistic integration. And I really want to do an extra shout out to the staff for going that extra mile and figuring out ways that it's not just about maintenance. And especially because you hear it too, people in our neighborhoods, they say, why are you ripping it up this year? You just ripped it up last year. And so try and figure out ways of making those projects much more integrated. And of course, input from you is really, really important in that. Thanks.
Absolutely. And our hope too is as this progresses and we build on this, that it's going to be economically feasible and we will recognize savings. It's going to be less disruptive, as Commissioner Hanson just pointed out. So I really applaud the team for this proactive approach. So
Madam
thank
President?
you, Christy.
Thank
Yes,
you, Madam
please.
President.
Thank you.
Council President Clank.
So I do actually have one quick question. I've wondered this for a while. It seems like with the ADA ramp program, we end up redoing the same ramps over and over, and we still have a lot of ramps that haven't been done at all for the first time. Can you explain the reasoning behind that? It looks like David Wallace might have an explanation.
Mr. Wallace.
Madam President, spending a lot of time at this microphone. For the record, Dave Wallace, Deputy Director, Plans and Projects, ACHD. Madam President, Council President Clegg, Madam Mayor. So we try not to rip up ADA ramps that are in fact compliant already. We have just recently completed a complete survey, and I'm sorry we don't have the statistic up on the wall right now, but 6,300 or so diagonal ADA ramps, which in addition to that, some pedestrian accessibility issues on poles that are allowing us to, that are informing how we plan to do those things. There are some places where we have removed what appear to be compliant items to put in new ones because of something else comes to mind, I think, on, excuse me, residue in the north end. And not the current projects we have going on, but where we replaced some luminaires and put in brand new ADA ramps. One of the things that we discovered in this inventory, which we outsourced, was that we went looking at ramps that we thought were compliant and discovered that over half of them are not. So as you're well familiar, the criteria for those change. So we have a lot of those in the county, and we're working to make sure that we do it right. It probably doesn't answer your question, but.
Follow up, Madam President?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So understanding there's ramps that are no longer compliant with the changed standards, do you have a process in place to understand, would it be better to do a treatment on a intersection that doesn't have any ramps rather than fix ones that are no longer compliant? In other words, I guess my point is I see places where if I'm in a wheelchair or I have a stroller or other wheels, there's no way I can use that intersection. And yet an intersection that I can use, albeit maybe not absolutely perfectly safely, gets redone. And I just am trying to understand the prioritization about how you decide which ones to do.
Well, great question. Again, the inventory is something that will help us inform how we do pedestrian ramps specifically. We are, of course, committed to replacing deficient pedestrian ramps, those that are missing truncated domes, for example, entirely, those that are completely out of compliance with angular ramps, that sort of thing. And of course, we fix everything that we do any treatment on a road beyond a chip seal. So if we are doing a simple inlay on something, then we are touching that, so we have to do that. There are a lot of ramps. We look forward to taking input from citizens, and we do that all the time. It turns out your citizenry is not reluctant to tell us what we're doing wrong. And we're delighted to hear from them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
President May.
Yeah, thank you. Christy.
Yeah, I just wanted to also add on, because Councilmember Clegg, you had a question about the prioritization. A component of our prioritization rankings does include if there are ADA facilities existing, and if they are not, they get a higher ranking, and if they are existing, are they a high priority? And we do have those in, like low, medium, and high on our rankings for the ADA facilities. So that does go into all of our prioritization. But as Deputy Director Wallace stated, we do, if we go into a project and there's been a request to do a pedestrian crossing, and at that particular location there are pedestrian ramps that are not ADA compliant, we are required to replace them as part of that project. So a lot of times you'll see that, but their priority and existing facilities absolutely go into our prioritization ranking.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Christy. Appreciate it. All right, thank you. All right, any other questions? We will move on. Christy, thank you very much. Mr. Wallace, always good to see you at the microphone. We will have a presentation on our annual report, and this will be done by Ryan Head, a Planning and Programming Supervisor. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Madam President. Excellent. Madam President, Madam Mayor, Council Commission. It's my pleasure to present today on our 2020 Integrated 5-Year Work Plan Annual Report. And I'll share my screen. I can see it here. I guess I should probably share it. There we are.
There you go.
Excellent. All right. Often, as you just heard from Christy, ACHD builds projects, and we build a lot of projects. And sometimes the question may be, what is the goal? Why are we doing this project and not that project, or what are we trying to accomplish with that? ACHD undertook an intense inventory and looking through all our plans to really frame out what is the goal, what is it that we're trying to accomplish, and we consolidated that into an annual report. We produced our first one this last January, and we'll be producing our next one this upcoming January. So this really has a number of goals associated with it. So ultimately, it is our kickoff. It is framing the process by which we approach our integrated 5-year work plan. And it's intended to be focused on the public, depending on what they may be interested in, what they're trying to, how they get around, how ACHD serves them in various ways. It's a number of metrics that really indicate what is the quality of the network, how complete is it, and where are we trying to get to. And in that way, it's not really a cover-to-cover report. I guess you could if you want to sit down and look at it through the whole thing, but it can give that individual who's only specifically interested in how we're serving those who bike or those who drive or take the bus, and gives that indication of what are we doing for them. It does indicate and is focused on the build out of a network, and that is that we are building what type of network are we building for those who bike or drive or take the bus, and how are we serving them. But it is honest. It's the facts, right? The facts are, this is how far we are and what are we doing, and we try to give it in that way so that we can really see where there are gaps and what maybe we need to do to improve. The first half of it is focused on transportation choice and how ACHD serves those and how they choose to travel. I'm just going to give you a cutout of a few of the metrics throughout this. This is just an overview of a number of different ones in terms of the network build out. So, and this is countywide. This isn't specific just in Boise, but if you look at this, from the major roads perspective, of the total planned lanes in our master street map, ACHD's only built out about 30% of those. Now that constantly changes. Last night we adopted a modification to our master street map which adjusted that, and that's why we'll continue to monitor this on an annual report. From the low stress bike network, we started this in 2018. We've already been able to complete 6% of this, but we have a good portion, a quarter of that was in the integrated 5-year work plan at that time. From a sidewalk perspective, and I apologize, this value popped up, but ultimately I think that's in the thousands, the number there, but it talks about the miles of sidewalk that have been built on those arterials and collectors and locals. Now there has to be a goal associated with that, and from our perspective the goal is always to have sidewalk on both sides on our arterials and collectors. Now on the local streets, with new development, that's also the goal, that we would have sidewalks on both sides based on the context. On retrofitting areas where there's not sidewalks, we have a goal of using our neighborhood plans to really drive where should we add sidewalks and where shouldn't we. That neighborhood planning process where we go into each neighborhood and ask the question of where do you want to see sidewalks in your neighborhood? What's the most important network to get you where you're trying to get and not? So that's what really drives what is the planned network for on the local streets. As well as we use our bike master plan to inform our complete bike network and the different levels of treatment where we would be going. Of note, from that level 3 facility, that's the enhanced bike lanes. We got a long ways that we're going and a lot of planned improvements to fully implement that. The other thing we looked at as a network is improving access to key destinations. So we took a look at where the adopted or where the existing bus stops are and how far Does it go within a quarter mile of that from on an existing sidewalk? Do we have access to those via sidewalk? And we're doing pretty good, but obviously there's still some room there. We also look at the pedestrian signals, and do they have the accessible pedestrian signal with, and how we're making progress there. Now, getting into the populations within a 1 mile walk of key destinations. Now, this is a countywide number, and it's interesting. Obviously, the numbers would look very different in the city of Boise, for instance, on the bus stops. The access is a lot greater, and I'll show you that actually here in a few minutes at the neighborhood scale of who has access to bus stops within that 1 mile walk or not. We also looked at grocery stores and parks. So this is an area where we work together pretty closely, because the existence of those land uses also has an impact on who can walk to them within a certain distance. And so we try to find that balance. So getting into that neighborhood level scale, that's the second half of the annual report. We've adopted 16 different neighborhood planning areas. All of Boise, with the exception of Barber Valley, has been planned for as a neighborhood plan since 2012. And we are wrapping up South Meridian and Cuna this next year. We'll grab Barber Valley up when we start our second cycle, which will be when we revisit the central bench and take back, here's what we've completed since what we last visited with you, and want to verify that this is still the appropriate network that you want to see in your neighborhood. Obviously, neighborhoods change, and the goals and visions of those neighborhoods change. So looking at some of the things that we found is that the neighborhood needs definitely are unique. These are, again, just two of the metrics here, but if you look on the left, I'm looking at the build out of major roads. If you look throughout the county, the way that those build out is very different, right? There's areas where, like downtown Boise, the lane miles exist that are going to exist, right? But then you have areas like northwest Boise or southwest Boise, where the build out of the number of lane miles that's planned is definitely a long ways from complete. Now, that's really interesting, but when you tie in the amount of congestion that's out there, is that driving congestion? And some of those areas, it's just growth hasn't happened, right? You think of Cuna or South Meridian or those areas. But in terms of Boise, southwest Boise, there is a lot of congestion because a lot of the growth has already happened. And so these are the areas where you're probably going to see a lot more of ACHD's focus. And you saw that through what Christy presented on the amount of investment we make in building out those major roads. Now, access to key destinations, as I spoke earlier, this is where our coordination really is valuable. I pulled out just the metrics as they relate to the city of Boise and the neighborhood planning areas that we have, and I think they align fairly well with the city's comprehensive planning areas. But ultimately, if you look at this, you can see how there's a difference. And this was obviously, again, in January of last year when we reported this. And as the city has added a park, for instance, in Barber Valley, that number will obviously change, people's access to a park in that area, or as grocery stores build out in that area. So you can see kind of how each different area has access differently. As mentioned, the bus stops, there's a lot of areas where their access to a bus stop within a 1 mile walk is substantial. Obviously, everyone who lives in those areas has that access, but there are other areas where maybe that access is a little bit less, and that may be the availability of service, or it may be the availability of sidewalks, and that's where we look at that partnership to really begin to evaluate the quality of the system that we're trying to build out. So just to give you one more piece of information, ACHD did this both in a static report as well as in a digital version. And the value of that digital version, besides giving those same metrics that are in the annual report, it also gave you the ability to tie that to a map. So you can see the areas where it's complete or where it's not. This is just a map, for instance, of the build out of the roadway network, and those areas in orange are those that are fully built out. I'm not sharing that either. Okay. Let me unshare or change the screen I'm sharing. Is that now sharing? Thank you. I apologize. So this is, for instance, how ACHD serves those who drive. Moving on, we have the planned We have the planned Bikeway network, and you can see also the status of its build out. If you click on any of these lines, you can see what is the planned level, how does it exist, and get some good information on each of those components. I show you just one more map here. There's the low stress Bikeway network. This map is one of my favorites in here. This takes a look at how ACHD's invested the money it's received since the 2008 voter approved ballot initiative for vehicle registration fees and our real commitment to building out safe routes to school. These are the projects that have been completed since that time. You can see on each of these projects what they are. What did we do in that particular area, and when was it built? And so this gives you an idea to see how ACHD's invested its community programs funds. But this annual report's available out there, and you can also see those individual neighborhood reports and this is on ACHD's website. But that ends my presentation. We'll be releasing our next update in January, but I'll stand for any questions at this time.
Thank you, Ryan.
Madam Chair, I'm going to have to excuse myself. I have an appointment that I have to get to. So thank you all for
right,
being
thank you,
here
Commissioner
today.
Arnold.
It was great to see you.
Appreciate it. I think one thing is we're going to have to maybe schedule a little bit more time next time. A lot of good discussion, a lot of good information to share. So I apologize, we're running a little bit long. Mayor McLean, I hope that doesn't present a problem to you and your staff and council. So we will.
Madam
if anybody
President,
has
I actually do have a 2 o'clock stop, so I can get to my next meeting.
Okay.
I had this on my calendar from 1 to 2. What I was going to propose was that we could most likely provide, I know that because Council President Pro Tem and Council President have worked with my staff, Sean, on the parklets, they might want to, if time allows, review that quickly, but then we could send a memo on special use permits to the commission to share with everyone.
That would be great. That would be great. We'll just go ahead and move straight into that.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Thank you, Ryan.
I have just one quick question. And
Is it for Ryan? Could we hold that so we can get right into the city's
not for
presentation?
Ryan, it's for Mayor McLean.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say it would be helpful, I think, because the city has done superb work on initiating the Canal Pathways Master Plan and putting money into that, is to figure out ways of integrating that into our annual report, because the canals and the pathways obviously need to connect. And the other is the Boise Community Needs Assessment, in which you identified hotspots, neighborhoods with particular needs. Again, integrate that with where we're prioritizing so that those two pieces are then reflected in our annual report and in our priorities. So I would just love to sort of, maybe that's for a separate discussion, or just say, go for it, staff, figure out a way, and then come back to us.
Sure, I appreciate that. And
Thank
Bree
you.
Brush, our transportation staff from my office, is in the room with me, and she's saying yes. So she'll connect with staff on those issues.
So am I going to report on the parklets?
Yeah.
Okay. Madam President, if you'd like, I'll start on the parklets, and then Council President Pro Tem Williams.
Absolutely, please. Absolutely.
Great. So
Take it away.
as you know,
Thank
we approved an ordinance 2320 that originally ran through the end of this year to allow parklets and parking lot extensions of outdoor seating areas, and also what we're doing on 8th Street. We recently amended it to go through the end of next year, and after conversations with many of the restaurant owners, they're requesting that we actually extend it a little bit further, and their reasoning, I think, is very sound. By extending it through the middle of the winter, essentially, by putting a December 31st date on it, whatever investments they might make would only be useful for half of a season in next year. And so they've asked us to extend it actually until May of 2022, so that they could get two full winters out of whatever investment they make in those parklets or other seating areas that they might use outdoors. Of course, all of this will continue to be dependent on what the conditions are and our continued need to social distance. But they just would feel a lot more comfortable if they would be able to extend this through May of 2022. And we would like to do that. We wanted to bring that to you, make sure that you all don't have concerns with that, but we would like to move it forward quickly.
Thank you for that. We did have that announcement at the DBA, and Councilwoman Woodings and I did have a discussion about that, and I had shared it with Director Wong. So certainly we're supportive of this initiative. A few concerns we had was snow removal, obviously, looking at that situation, making sure we have the proper clearance with the heating implements that are being used as the temperatures start to turn. But Director Wong, did you have anything else that you would like to add to that? We don't clear the sidewalks. I think we had a brief conversation. Yeah, we're supportive.
We're full supportive.
I think actually we'll have safer areas because they'll be able to invest in real infrastructure and not the temporary stuff that they're using today. So that's great to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Strong partnerships, you bet. Thank you. The update on your special use permitting?
Well, and that's where
you're going to send us?
Yeah, I would propose so that we stop at least on our side, we thought we were done at 2. So staff could send the memo they prepared to the director for distribution to your commission.
That would be great. That would be great. And we do appreciate the robust conversation and discussion and questions. So maybe our next meeting will just have a little bit, skosh more time. So our apologies there, but good discussion.
Very good discussion.
We look forward to our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So on ACHD side, we will stand adjourned. Mayor McLean, if you'd like to do the same on your side.
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned as well. Thank you, Commissioner
Thank you, everyone. Great to see you all.
And staff for your hosting today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.